Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another not so dangerous Monday. We're having a bit of a weird weekend this weekend, and a weird day today as well. Up until about 4 hours ago, I was all for playing Elite Dangerous today, but I actually got to this point of thinking earlier on where I actually don't want to play Elite Dangerous today. I've got so many other games. I wanted to have a quick go on them and see what they're like at various points, which has made me do a lot of thinking this afternoon, which I'll come to shortly. That's kind of like for the second half of this broadcast. I'm going to mix things up a little. Befford, as usual, complaining. Welcome to the stream, mate. Good to see you. Hope you're okay. I hope that's not too bad news for you. But if you don't like that, you're not going to like what I'm going to say later. But, oh, well, you see, I try not to think, but it just doesn't work. Sometimes I have to, because if I don't think, then my legs fall off. But there you go. Anyway, so my plan for today, so far, is I'm going to play a different game this evening, a different VR game just to play. I've not put it into VR mode at the moment. It is running in the background, and I'm going to have to probably quit it while we actually do some stuff later on. So I'm going to quit it just now because it has music I can't turn off. But I'm going to play Subnautica. But what I'm going to do before that, I've just switched it off before because essentially, I've lost track of what I was saying already. I'm only like 3 minutes into the stream and I've lost track of what I'm talking about. What essentially is going on today is I've decided I'm going to start branching out a little bit in the things that we do on the channel, or the things I do on the channel, because I don't want to be locked into Elite Dangerous forever. It has kind of been the be-all end-all of my streaming career so far, and I want to branch out a little bit. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to play with a couple of concepts, and I'm going to see how they work, I'm going to see how they go down. So what I'm going to do, initially, we're going to have a bit of an interview. I'm hoping to do interviews for the next 2 weeks of two of my very, very close friends. Probably the closest friends I have in the Elite community, but who are also branching out into different media and different things as well. I am talking, of course, about my fellow drinklings, John Hoggard and Drew Wagar, in that order. Tonight, on this very stream, I am hosting the lovely Daddy Hoggy, or John Hoggard as his real name is. And he's going to talk about a few creative things. One thing that the three of us have in common is we're all avid writers. We all want to do a bit of the creative stuff. We've had these words in our head for years and want to get them onto paper and out there. John is in the process of writing his first novel. Drew, obviously, you all know as the prolific writer of things like Elite Reclamation, Elite Dangerous Premonition, The Shadewood Chronicles, and blah blah blah. Many, many things. But he's next week. This week, we're looking at John Hoggard, who, although not as vocal and active in the Elite community as some people are, I've just realised I'm not wearing my Oculus headset, which I've got the headphones set up for. So just let me pop that back on, and just basically make sure that I have enough stuff on. Hang on a sec. Make sure I've got the right audio set for this. Desktop audio might have known it's not on the right thing, so let's put it on that where it should be. Right, we should be fine now. So as I say, the plan is we're hello Scarlet of the Night, how are you doing? My hay fever, yeah, I've actually literally got a sniffle in the last 10 minutes since I started streaming. It has actually come on, but hey, there you go. So thank you for the host, Scarlett. Very kind of you. So, without further ado, let's have a look at getting John on this evening. So, I'm just going to do a bit of studio mode stuff while I'm talking in the background. I say John isn't as prolific as other people we could mention in the kind of streaming or writing or putting himself out there things. He kind of sits in the background. There's a lot of the stuff that the rest of us don't want to do, like editing and proofing and critiquing and criticising, and dealing with stuff that he has to. But he has been very, very instrumental in doing quite a lot of the things, or making quite a lot of the things happen, that the rest of us wouldn't be able to do our jobs without. So, as well as that, he also does quite a lot of stuff in the background and has a few things to push onto the world as it stands. So just let me do one final thing. Oh, dearie me. When did these sniffles start? Just 1 second, I'm going to go one thing. I'm going to do one more thing before I put the visuals on. I do apologise. Oh, right, so lots on tonight. So you'll have to apologise. I'm balancing a headset on my head, as you will see, because my headphones are... My audio is going through the headphones, so I'm not going to be able to check chat as much as I'd like. I will do what I can, but I'm not promising. And I'm going to try and keep things on focus as much as I can. Just 1 second to pop this out. So I've got an easier way to get to it. Right. Tapey, 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 tapey. Yeah. Just wait a second, for crying out loud. I'm sorting out Skype. Okay, so
good evening, everyone.
Welcome to the stream, John.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to...
I thought I'd already done the phone call.
I need to mute the... There's quite a lag, isn't there?
There is a bit, yeah.
Oh, that was surreal.
It was indeed. So yeah, John Hoggard, welcome to the stream. You've been a listener / viewer for quite a while. You're usually on most Mondays when I'm on, and I think this is the first time I've really had you on to do any kind of interview, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. Don't think we've ever done this before.
So do you want to start off, just introduce yourself to people that are listening and the people who might be on YouTube, the thousands of people who will watch it on YouTube later on?
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, name's John Hoggard, known online as Daddy Hoggy, which was the name my now 16-year-old daughter nicknamed me when I was an online gamer. So I used to do a bit of urban terror and stuff like that, Quake 3 Arena, when I had some reflexes where I could actually play those games without being killed immediately. And that name sort of stuck, so when I got into Oolite, or Oolite, depending on how you pronounce it, and I don't mind which way, I call it Oolite, and that became my online name in that community, and that's where I met you and I met Drew, and that's when I started to write fiction for that, as well as writing, because I'd always written sort of Discworld type fanfic and Star Trek type fanfic, and I'd won a couple of competitions at various cons I'd gone to as a university graduate, so I knew I could write reasonably well. And then about 11 years ago I joined a writers group called Word Watchers, which is a little group based in Newbury, and we are small enough that we pretty much fit in each other's living rooms each night, or once a month when we meet up. So there's somewhere between 8 and 12 of us. We're about.
Don't expect it just before we get to those subjects. It's just supposed to be a quick intro, not go into everything.
Sorry.
You're stomping on my question list already.
I'm a university lecturer, you see. I just talk until I talk sure.
Waffle till the bell goes. Is that how it works?
Pretty much.
Hello there, Edrin. Hello there, Blindspeed. Thank you for watching again. So yeah, thanks for that. That was quite a lot of stuff in there. But just to give you a bit of personal history from John and myself's point of view, is we've known each other on the Elite forums for many years now, and it's over a decade now, isn't it? Well over a decade now.
Yeah.
You, me, and Drew all together.
2006-ish, we all sort of piled into Ulite.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those were the days.
They were.
Pre-Elite Dangerous. It's hard to imagine it nowadays.
When it was known as Elite 4 Vaporware.
But yeah, the first time that John and I actually met face to face was with first Elite Meet, I believe, at the airport, Manchester Airport. Which was much celebrations abound. So that was quite fun to do. But so the main thing kind of wanted to talk about tonight is there are a couple of things that go on in John's life that he wouldn't mind putting a little bit of publicity out there for. The first of them, it was going to be the Martian magazine initially, but given that you've mentioned World Watchers and gone quite far down that road, and that I've accidentally made that the first screen on the stream.
Well, that's what got me going, you see, because I tried minimising that, thinking I'd pulled up the website, and then realised you were showing the website page, which confused the hell out of me.
Oops. I never said I was good at this. Just because I've been doing it for 3 years doesn't mean to say I'm any good for it.
Yes. So that's our tweet feed, in fact.
Is that the Twitter feed?
It is our Twitter feed,
So it is. I've actually got the last page highlighted as opposed to the first page. It should be that one. My apologies, everyone.
That's alright.
So just about my own boss on this and I'll be sacked. But yeah, so I just started to go through. I mean, one of the things that we all have in common, us three, like myself, John, and Drew, is that we're all avid writers, as I said. So we do enjoy putting pen to paper or creating worlds and doing different creative things out there. And this is one of John's outlets. So what I'll do at this point, again, I'll turn it over to John if you want to talk us through what World Watchers is and how it works.
Yeah. So as I alluded to, we're a very small group. We're all based in and around Newbury, which is the town I'm living in, and we, despite being quite small, we're a pretty successful group. One of our previous members, she moved out of Newbury about 5 years ago to look after her parents, but while she was in the group, a young author called Catherine Webb, whose first novel was Richard and Judy Summer Selection, a novel called The Legacy, and she wrote that novel while she was in the group, and the group critiqued and helped her edit that novel before she handed it over, because at the time she didn't have an agent. So we got that novel in quite a good state. So if you go to the alumni page, you'll see that there's a hyperlink to the alumni page just above the bookcase.
Hidden by your Skype window.
So Catherine wrote 4 novels while she was in the group. Well, she wrote the 4th one while she was in the group, but she moved out just before she went away, and so she managed to get a book deal without having an agent, because she won, and that's an odd word to use, but she won the You Write On, which was a website Orion set up to basically organise their slush pile. So people would submit the first 10,000 words of their novel, and the winners, the top 3, then got a request from Orion to read the whole novel, and Catherine won that 1 year, and then Charlotte Webb, who is still in the group, she won it the following year, which, considering we're a very small writers group based in Newbury, to have 2 writers who both won it back-to-back years, both got agents and book deals out of it. That was pretty good. So we're not doing too bad. Out of the current membership of 10, several of us have been sort of published by indie published. So my publisher is obviously Fantastic Books Publishing. They've published my short stories in their various sci-fi and horror anthologies. And so if you look at the bottom of that page, you'll see Synthesis, Fusion, and 666, which are the three anthologies from Fantastic Books I've appeared in. And then quite a few of our members have also been published by indie publishers. So Debbie has been, she joined a small indie publisher called Digital Leaf, who subsequently, I think, if not folded, have basically withdrawn from the book industry. So she's currently publisherless, but she's writing again at the moment. So you can see Gonzo the Chick are the three books that were published while she was with Digital Leaf. And then Consumed and Unspeakable by Abby Rushton. She's still in the group, but she's on sabbatical because she's just had a baby. And she decided to write those two novels, won loads of YA awards, and then decided writing was getting in the way of doing baby stuff. So she's on sabbatical. So considering there's only 10 of us, 5 people are aged, we have multiple people sort of winning awards, and it's one of those classics where the group is clearly greater than the parts. We meet up once a month in each other's living rooms, but we also meet up once a month, sort of halfway through a month, in a pub, and invite local writers in the area who might not have a little group like Word Watchers, just to sort of spread the writing love. And so we're not doing too bad. 205 meetings, and we meet once a month, so we're well into our 16th year at the moment.
And that in itself is a pretty good achievement. To keep it going for 16 years means that there's obviously a continued interest and a good use for it. So
I look after the website, which is what you're scrolling around at the moment. So it's only based on a WordPress site, but it's got quite a heavily modified sort of CSS, so we can sort of play around with the bookshelf and stuff like that. So I just help look after that. I write people's bios up. I manage the tweet feed, which I think shocked you the other week when I revealed that sometimes I tweet at myself and reply. There's 2 separate accounts.
I think more people do that than you'd believe.
Yeah. So we're not doing too bad. And of course, you saw that on the ebook page, I put Elite Encounters there, which is obviously your fabulous RPG, and that's there because the one travel I submitted because I backed it as a Kickstarter didn't make it into the pages, but the 5 I just sort of gifted you because I really liked writing them. All found a little home amongst the chapter starts. So that was really nice, actually. So because it's nice to sort of be, although it doesn't count as official law anymore, it was nice to be very briefly part of the official law, even if by coincidence rather than by mainstream.
Who said it doesn't count as official law anymore?
Well, I thought Rayburn had sort of knocked on the head anything pre the current existence of Elite.
It's a bit more complicated than that, I think. I mean, from what I hear, unless it's been specifically contradicted, then what was put in the writers' bibles for the Kickstarters is still valid.
Well, there you go.
It's like it goes with anything. It gets to a certain point in time. The same happened with Star Trek, with the Star Trek role-playing game. Up until the point of publication, everything within is correct. But after the point of publication, anything put into the screen canon, if you like, then overtakes what's in the written canon.
Which makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So most of it's still valid, most of it's still accurate. Obviously, there are a few things about Galcop and the really old Elite era stuff that's been contradicted since then. But that's me being picky. And I'm wearing a tangent about my own stuff again. You bugger.
No, that's all right. I did that on purpose.
It does link it into stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I was going to point out is that the Woodwatchers site, although it's a locally run group for people who are in the local area primarily, you do contain and review and stock, not stock as such, but link to stuff done by people outside your area, such as myself or Fantastic Books Publishing and so on.
And anything that features any of the authors, even in the most tangential way, gets a mention, to be fair.
Yes, as long as there's something essentially within there by one of the people in your group, then it will find a place on your shelves.
Absolutely.
Even if it's something as small as a Drabble or 5.
Absolutely, yeah.
And for those of you who are interested, by the way, the little picture on the screen there, if you there's no prize whatsoever if you can guess which one of them is John. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, answers on a postcard.
Yeah.
His flowing locks. So I mean, what kind of stuff does Woodwatchers do kind of outside the group itself? I mean, there was something I read on one of the pages about reviewing books. I mean, do you review internally or do you review fiction from other publishers, other authors, other areas, or is it all very integral?
We definitely review each other's novels. That's a very integral part to the group. So last year we reviewed 7 novels in 8 months. So it just happened to be 7 of us finished all of our novels about a month apart over the span of about 8 months. So that was a pretty intense moment. To the point where people were going, we can't. They did sort of badly. They just went, no, this is crazy. We just went, it was a one-off. And for example, we've only reviewed. We're in May now, June. So we just had our June meeting, and we've only looked at 1 novel this year. So last year was a glitch, but a nice glitch. It was nice to sort of read a novel a month. But that's quite a lot of effort. You have to read, anything from a YA at about 65 to 70,000 words to one of the novels was a sort of Viking magical mythos with a bit of real-time World War II stuff thrown in for good measure, and that was 160,000 words. So reading that in a month and critiquing it in a way that is useful to the author, because that's what you've got to remember to do. It's the author tends to go, this is what I'm worried about. Can you help me sort out the flabby middle? Or I'm a bit worried about the 2 sort of World War II bits at either end. Do they work? Or my grammar's terrible. Can you help fix my grammar? And that kind of stuff. So it depends on what the author needs and what the author wants. And some people do sort of a quite an overview, generalized review, and some of us do sort of line by line, and some of us do a mixture. It depends on the time. It depends on the novel. It depends what the author's asked for. But because we have the website, we do have people in the area who've sort of said, "Oh, I know you said you're full because you meet in your living rooms and therefore you don't have enough room for the group. But is there any chance I'd sort of come to the social, and would you be willing to read a chapter of my novel and give me feedback on it?" And we go, "Yep, that's exactly not a problem." And not everybody in the group can do that, in the sense that some people are really busy with actual genuine publisher deadlines, so they just go, "I'm really sorry, I can't." But other members in the group basically go, "Yeah, I'd love to do that. That kind of novel's right up my street. I'd love to give you a bit of feedback on that." And because we've been pretty much all being published at some point, then we're not experts in it, but we've been published. We know what other editors are looking for. We're readers as well as writers, so we know a good story. We know when you've contrived a plot point just to make it work. So you point that out that, well, if we spotted it, all of your other readers are going to spot it, so you need to fix that. I think that one of the sort of maxims is you're allowed to use coincidence to get a character into trouble, but you're not allowed to use a coincidence to get them out. So it's looking for stuff like that. You're going to have to do better than that. You could definitely be better than that. So we have, and we do have people who sort of drift into the peripheral of Word Watchers, come to the socials, offer up short stories maybe, or poetry, or articles they're thinking of submitting to other magazines. And if we can help, we will, because that's one of the things we like doing. We like to be useful to the writing community, hence the Facebook page, and hence the Twitter feed. So just to have a little bit more reach.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's the social media aspect of it is something that's interesting to sort of touch on, because obviously it opens up the local group to the wider community, both on the internet and kind of in people's own homes as well. So is it something that you get some traffic from? Does the Facebook page or the Twitter page actually give you any budding authors coming in and saying, can you just give this a quick read, or what do you think of this idea, or anything like that?
It used to, much more in the early days, but it's very hard now to have any kind of sensible reach on Facebook, basically without paying for it, and we refuse to pay for it. So like a lot of these little pages now, you don't necessarily appear in people's feeds, even if they subscribe to your feed and have actually clicked the following and notification button. Facebook seems to be remarkably good at limiting your reach. So, for example, in the early days, there's another group in the area called Reading Writers, and we went to see them and did a presentation to them about using social media, because it's not something they did. And I was showing charts where we had posts that had reach of 50 or 60,000 contacts, and we're lucky to scrape 1,000 on even on an absolutely brilliant post nowadays. You'd be lucky to scrape 1,000, and 100 to 200 is not uncommon for a Facebook post now. So you sort of have to play the game. I'm in a few other groups like the Sci-Fi Roundtable and the British Short Story Writers and the British Sci-Fi page, and I don't milk it, but occasionally if something comes through the Word Watchers page that would be useful for them to see, then I'll share it via the Word Watchers page, so that hits their page, and anybody who reads it on their page then means our page gets a little sort of notification and kickback from that. But it's unfortunately not as easy as it used to be, because obviously Facebook want you to pay for it now. So so we've been on about 350 likes probably for about a year. It got to about 355 at one point. It dropped down to about 345 not that long after that. But it sort of it sits around. So because we've got other writers who share, so you just the picture of the dogs is from Charlotte Betts, so she has her own Facebook page and her own website, and she's one of our 7 times published, proper agented and traditionally published authors. So if she publishes anything on Facebook or a tweet feed, then we push it out through the Word Watchers page, because she is one of our members, and we have only marginally overlapping followers. So there's a couple of members that are the same group, so they'll see it both times, but we have quite different demographics.
Yeah, I understand what you say there. I mean, I do know that when I originally started doing the book, I started using Facebook as a marketing tool and as a market research tool more than anything else. And it did a lot better then, even just as quickly as 4 years ago. It did a lot better then than it does now. Now it's, as you say, it's very difficult to drive traffic in without paying for advertisement space on or advertisement space, depending on how you want to pronounce it, on Facebook. And as you say, it's not something you really want to pay for all the time, especially if you don't have any incoming funds to push that through. So,
and the problem is for me with Facebook is they just go, we'll put this in front of 50,000 people for like 30 quid. And I'm going, but which 50,000 people? And it's like
exactly.
And that's one of the things about our tweet feed. People will go, oh, you could have loads more followers than that. But if you look, we're almost at unity. We follow almost as many people as we're followed by. And about 1,000, oddly enough, is about manageable. And it sounds awful, but we've gone for quality, not quantity. I spend quite a lot of time culling followers because people follow us and I go, yeah, you're selling car insurance in South Africa. I have no idea why you're following us. And you look up through and so I won't kill them immediately, but I'll sort of flick up through their tweet feeds and they're just like retweets. And I just go, so you don't actually interact with anybody. Why are you following us? And then I just block them because we don't need followers who aren't there because we're a group of writers. And people are going, no, you're mad. And I'm going, no, we want to have people who are interested in reading and writing. That's generally all we're interested in. So,
it's a tricky one, that. I do agree with what you're saying on there, but in this world where social media follows and likes and all that seem to be dictating how the world works, it's an interesting one. Do you sacrifice the popularity or the boosting of your ratings up a scale just for the sake of having completely meaningless followers? Or do you stick to your guns and do you stick to your values and say, well, no, we want value for value?
Yes. Well, we're doing that one at the moment.
So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing to see. I mean, there's quite a lot of these little groups and so on sort of spring up and then fold quite quickly or fade into obscurity. But having people involved with it who keep it in the public eye is always step one. And if there's someone at the front of the organisation sitting there and going, right, okay, I'll keep up to date with the social media stuff, even though it might be a losing battle. I'll keep up with the Twitter. I'll keep pushing our information out. I'll keep updating the website. I'll keep putting the blog posts out and so on. Then it does more than you know. And then over time, hopefully with things like what we're doing here tonight, I might have a relatively small audience, but it's still 5. It's usually 5, isn't it, that I usually get. It's still 5 more people than what you may have had before. 6! Wow, the heady heights. It's still 5 or 6 more people than you may have had aware of you before. So it's good. And hopefully, if people are kind enough to spread word of mouth or put a link on there and say, I watched this stream the other night, and if you're looking for some writing advice, or maybe if somebody comes up to them and says, oh, I've been trying to write this thing, and they might just think, hang on, I remember that stream that I saw the other day.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that can help, and I'm hoping by starting to do this kind of thing on my stream that it's going to maybe push that kind of thing forward. I'm hoping to do it quite regularly now with different things, and it's something that I think more streamers should try and do, is push this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One of the nice things. No, it's okay. Sorry. One of the nice things about sticking to my guns and keeping it to readers and writers is that if we are contacted by somebody who's just at the very beginning of their writing journey, and they go, what do I do here? How do I do this? Even if we can't help because either they're writing in a genre none of us write in, or we're busy with our own projects, there's a good chance we'll know another group or a copy editor or an agent who's trying to pick up, or a small indie publisher who's looking for new people. So even if we can't capitalize on that agent or that competition or that copy editor, we can go, well, we know this person because we've been interacting with them for X number of years on social media, and we've maybe met them at a writing event. They seem really nice people, so even though we can't help you directly, why don't you drop them an email or tweet them, or so we can hopefully pass people around, even if we can't help directly. Helping the community indirectly is our group's going through quite an interesting thing at the moment, because a couple of our writers managed to get themselves a proper agent um, with based on some novels they'd written, and the agents were very enthusiastic initially and sort of went around the publishers, banging on doors, waving the editors' noses at the publishing houses, and failed to get a publishing deal. So they go, yeah, that's all right then. Just send the next novel when it's finished, and we'll try again. And what I've noticed from both of those people is that it becomes the law of diminishing returns, because each time they write a novel, the agent goes, oh, it's like the other one. You write the same kind of novel, and both my friends are going, yes, the kind of novel you took me on as an agent for. That's the kind of novel I write. And they're going, oh, I didn't secure a deal for them. Well, yes, but are you basically saying because you couldn't secure a deal on that novel, because I'm now writing that style of a different story, you're basically unwilling to try again? And although they'll say no, the answer seems to be actually yes. So the group had a massive discussion. Probably we normally finish at about 10 to 10:30, and somebody noticed it was about 11 p.m. And we were basically we were going, do we set up our own publishing house? Because a couple of members of the group have done that sort of within their own, they've self-published, but self-published well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Paid for a professional photographer to take the front cover, paid for proper typesetting and that kind of stuff. And in fact, in the bookstore, Chasing Innocence by John Potter is one of those novels, and he paid £6,000 to have that book made through Amazon. So he paid for the photographer, paid for the typesetting, paid for the model to appear on the front cover. But I hope he won't mind me saying, but he got back about £15,000 over 4 years, selling that novel basically himself via promotions on Amazon and playing the Amazon Create Space game about when to promote and when to make it 99p. And so, a lot of people go, that's a lot of money up front. You went, yeah, but I got it back. And he learnt a lot in that process. So he's a member. So this huge discussion was basically, if you look at what gets published now, they publish stuff which makes sense. They publish stuff that sells. And it doesn't matter whether it's well written. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's a good story. If that person's famous or infamous, all the better. So the days of when I think the veneer of full-time traditional publishers were seen as the bastions, the gatekeepers of good quality, I think they've undone themselves a little bit by publishing things like 50 Shades of Grey and stuff like that. So
cough, Twilight.
And publishing Twilight fanfic set in New York rather than where it was originally set, and you think, okay, you publish that because it made pots of money, and then you look at Andrew Weir, who published The Martian?
Could be.
Yeah, it's definitely something Weir. I think it is Andrew Weir, but somebody on the thing can look that up for me. But he wrote that. He couldn't get a publishing deal, so he actually published it as a blog, so a chapter of a blog, and that gained huge amounts of traction. So he then self-published, and then oddly enough, having self-published it and sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and then a movie company was sniffing around it, so he quickly got snapped up by a traditional publisher, and it got optioned as a book deal. So, and now his next book, Artemis, went straight out, from his main publisher. So it's like, so he's basically said, because some of the guys in the sci-fi round table know him or met him when he was, going around the circuits trying to get his self-published novel picked up. And he basically said, yeah, if you self-publish and you do well, you have all the leverage. Whereas the more traditional route of getting an agent who's going to take 15% and then getting a traditional publisher who might give you a couple of £1,000 advance, but it might take 10 years to earn that out, and you will literally see nothing. So he said, well, I don't have to do that anymore, because I did so well out of the Martian that I basically dictated the terms of a traditional publishing deal. So he did really well out of that, and he's the exception, not the rule, but it does mean it's actually possible. So Amazon may be the corporate monster that is destroying the high street, but if you're a writer, then they are. Then they're a means to a market that no other publishing mechanism actually offers.
No, it's spot on. I mean, it's what a lot of people have actually noticed in recent years, is that the self-publishing method may be kind of scoffed at by your major publishing houses and big authors and all that kind of stuff. But I think the key thing to remember is that if you self-publish your own novel, you are in charge of marketing one book. You market your own book, so your 100% focus on your marketing talent is given to your product. Whereas if you go with a large-scale publisher, say Golax or Penguin or whoever, then their marketing team is across hundreds or thousands of books. So you're getting a very, very small percentage of that attention compared to what you can do. You can go on the road, you can push the book yourself, you can push it through Amazon, you can handle all the sales, the feedback and all that stuff on your own without having to worry about a third party taking care of it for you. So it is, although it's a lot more work, you will get, in theory, you will get the reward. And if you have the talent to make something that's a good book and catches a market or catches a genre at just the right time or catches a curve, then you've done it. You've made it, just like Mr. Weir has. So
absolutely,
yeah, it's a good model. I mean, we've kind of drifted into talking about self-publishing now, and it is one of the things that we, as authors, I think we do tend to look at with a bit of a sine wave kind of thing to it. It could be a very, very good thing to do, or it could be a very, very bad thing to do, depending on what you take from it. But I think if you approach it in the way that you make sure you do professional editing on it, you don't just do all the work yourself, you do not edit or proof yourself, you make sure that you put that out to tender and you allow somebody else in to do that work for you, whether you can pay them or not, whatever method that you have that you can do to make your book the best product it is, then you can increase your own chances of being successful in that kind of thing. So
yeah, it's not magic. You basically do have to do the work. One of the things we were talking about is lots of people go, I need to get published, and when they say that, they mean they get an agent, and then that agent jumps through traditional hoops for them, and they end up with a traditional publisher, and they go, I've made it, I'm a professional writer. And my friend Charlotte is now 7 novels in with her publisher, Yacus, and 7 novels in, and she's what they call a mid-lister. She does all right. She makes back her advance, in the first couple of years. She's sold international rights to some of her books. And yet every time it comes round to another round of trying to get a publishing deal, because they do 2 or 3 books at a time, they go, oh well, yeah, and there's lots of teeth sucking, and so you think she's 7 novels in and she still doesn't know whether she's put in 2 submissions of what she'd like to do for her next novels, and they've gone, yeah, we'll think about it. And you're thinking, for God's sake, she's 7 novels in, she's retired, she does actually write a novel a year, which actually means she writes a novel in 6 months, because she spends 3 months flipping backwards and forwards between the copy edits and stuff, and then about 9 months in they go, oh, by the way, what's your next idea for the next one? So people go, oh, a book a year. She's going, no, it's actually a book every 6 months. So I just get 6 months in between when all the other stuff happens in the background. And I just think, she's consistently, hits her publishing targets every year, and she's just amazing. And yet here she is, 7 novels in, and her publisher's gone, well, we're not sure. And I think so. One of the things we say in the group is, what's your validation? Is it, oh, I'm not a proper writer until I've got a publishing deal, or it's, well, I did a good job, I got a good cover, I write a nice synopsis and a nice blurb, I put it on Amazon, and I sold 20,000 copies at 99p a copy. Because if you go, well, 20,000 people bought my book, they only may have bought it because it was 99p, but 20,000 people bought your book, and you just got to decide what's your validation, what's your tick box for, I'm a real writer now. So so that's the kind of debate we're having inside the group now, about, because Charlotte's saying her worry is that if they say no, she doesn't get the right back to her books for quite a number of years. So she's got to hope that she keeps writing, may either get picked up by another publisher, or goes the Word Watcher's way, which is deciding to self-publish, and then she's got to hope she can drag her followers from Piacus into her new books, but she'll have to prove she still exists by using social media and her website and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and whatever else she can to prove she still exists, because her original publisher just gave up on her.
It's an interesting one.
It is.
It does kind of highlight the kind of position that publishers have and the power that they have over an author's creative efforts. And it's always been something I've wondered about, because I've been into writing books since I was little, since I was about 12 or something. I've had this idea in my head to write novels, and every time I've got into the idea of doing it, you do some reading on it, or you find out information, or you go to meet an author somewhere, and they always say the hardest thing you'll ever do is trying to get a book published, because it's the most disheartening, suicidal. You'll be on a bridge with all your rejection letters at some point waiting there before you get something published. And to me that sounds horrific.
It's really weird, actually, because obviously even within a group of 10 writers, of various bits of journey, pretty much started, have decided they want to write a novel, to 7 times traditionally published, and it's hilarious because you watch and you go, right, I want to write a novel, okay, right, I've written a novel, okay, the group reads it, it's like, ooh, yeah, this isn't ready. It's like, what do you mean? It needs huge amounts of editing. And then you discover that editing is really hard compared to writing. So, endless possibilities. My novel is 5 times around that boy now. I'm hoping, in fact, no matter what now, this is its final edit. I'll be quite comfortable with it at this stage. And so you edit it for like X number of years, and you think, right, this is a good book now. So you go, right, now I've got to try and get an agent with it. So you start jumping through that hoops, and then if you're really lucky, you get an agent, and you go, yay, I'm a real writer, I have an agent. And then you think, oh yeah, I've actually got to get published now. And then you start, and then you go, yay, I got published. And then they go, right, we need the next book in 9 months' time. And you go, this is a tricky second album. I spent like 10 years fiddling with the first novel. And they go, yeah, you've got 9 months to write the second one. And you're like, I can't do it. And so I just watched some of my friends who have, written a novel, had it edited, got an agent, got a publisher, just go on that wheel, and the little hamster wheels squeaking as they run along. And I'm just thinking, yikes, I might just write because I like writing, and I'm not going to do anything else as a pastime. So yeah, it never actually ends.
It doesn't. I mean, I think if you're going to be a full-time writer, it is going to take up all of the time that you have. Although Drew manages to do it somehow. I've no idea how he turns out the amount of stuff that he does.
He's a monster.
He with a full-time job and a full-time family, and everything that goes on in his life. I mean, to churn out, is it a book a year or 2 books a year he's currently managing to do?
He was about a book. He's about a book and a half a year at one point.
A book every 9 months, something like that.
Slipped very slightly, hasn't he? Because of the because although he's got LOM almost ready to go, he's effectively a year and a half behind Shade Ward now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we can blame Premonition for that, because it essentially came out of nowhere, and I think at the same time he was offered LOM about a few months before that. He'd been offered LOM. That's Lords of Midnight, for those of you who don't know. And then it kind of threw his schedule off. But I mean, to be able to handle 3 creative projects at once, and be productive on the side of it with everything else, that's the mark of someone who really has a passion for the work. And that's I've found that's the exception rather than the rule. I've tended to find that if I'm trying to get something done, the first thing that slips is the hobby side of it. So trying to focus on the writing process is more difficult than the procrastination over getting real life sorted out. Which is why I'm not particularly productive. So I mean, it's a difficult thing to manage. I mean, it does become a full-time passion, and it can become a full-time job. And if you're lucky enough to manage to achieve both, then you're going to do well as an author, because if you can retain that passion, I think that always comes through in the writing. And if the rest of the process, like the editing process and the publishing process and the marketing process, is handled in a good way, then it's all positive. And I think that's what publishers and the publishing process tends to forget now and again, is that you're dealing with people's passions here, the thing that they've chosen to do.
Yes.
And if you then make that into a vehicle for your own issues, as it were, or your own greed or your own requirements, and forget that you're there to help publish a book that people could enjoy, then you're not doing the right job. And I think although smaller publishers tend to have problems as well, I think looking at Fantastic Books, for one thing, they have positives and negatives in their approach. They're more author focused, which is good. But with that, you've also got the problem that, is there enough marketing hype behind them to push the amount of books that they've taken on? Because they do have a huge catalogue for the size of company that they have. It's a huge catalogue. Can they give enough attention to that?
Yeah, I mean, they basically do what I do, which is they tweet about what each book about every 4 hours. I think they must have some kind of auto tweetery mechanism where they just cycle through a list, and it hyperlinks back to either an Amazon page or the FBP website. And if I spot them, I'll retweet. But I obviously don't do that too often, because one, I don't actually live on Twitter. I mean, I'm on it a lot, and especially now I'm not on Facebook anymore. Well, I am, but I only have Facebook on my tablet. I've actually logged out of every other device and deleted it. So
is that why you never answer your Facebook posts?
Yeah, because I only access it when I go on my tablet in an evening now, because it was getting a bit silly.
Sorry, that's probably Drew's fault.
No, Messenger's fine, except I have my phone on mute, so it never actually buzzes. So I check them when I have space to check. So because otherwise it becomes a distraction, and then it doesn't actually help.
Dragging it back onto Woodwatchers again. Briefly to mention FBP once again. So fantastic boobs. Oh dear, fantastic boobs. Oh, I just can't stop saying that now. Fantastic Books Publishing came up with a great idea a few years ago, which is to run a convention. Which, if you're looking for some marketing time, and you don't have a lot of staff, that's probably one of the best things you can actually do.
Yes.
So obviously the question that would then run in regards to Woodwatchers is, if you wanted to try and push the books that your contributors have written, would you consider doing something like that as a marketing tool, or as something that everyone can put a little bit of money behind, push some books out, whether it be an online kind of live streamed event, or whether it be something you grab a hall for in the local area, or whether you go somewhere a bit further afield, or take it on the road? Is that something you think that would benefit the kind of group that you have?
I think actually it could. I think I mean, one of the reasons we originally started the sort of social meeting in the pub was an effort to attract other writers in the area. And what's interesting about doing that is authors and writers drift in and drift out, because some either think we're a successful writers group and therefore it'll be magic and we can immediately turn whatever prose they've written, whatever state it's in, sort of immediately turn it into a masterpiece in a few scant hours of a social. Or sometimes worse, they turn up with their masterpiece and they maybe read something out at the social, and you go, okay, so this is obviously the first draft, and they go, no, this is the one I'm sending out to agents, and it's like, oh,
you need help.
Oh, we don't know how to tell you this, but yeah, the reason no agents ever got back to you is for the following 87,000 reasons, and a lot of people aren't ready for that. It's quite painful, because you've put your heart and soul into this piece of work, and to somebody, even in the most delicate of ways, to tell you it's not very good, for whatever reason, is hard to take. So what we'd hoped is we would reach some kind of critical mass, and then we'd speak to these people who come to the pub and go, shall we do something a bit bigger and a bit more organised? And we've never reached the critical mass. It's usually most of Word Watchers plus one or two other people who we see on an irregular basis. So it is something we have talked about. It is actually something we'd really like to do. Now, the next town over, Hungerford, there's a fantastic bookshop there, the Hungerford Bookshop, run by an amazing lady called Emma Milne White, and she runs a little sort of Hungerford literary festival, and we haven't yet, but the next one she's running, we are thinking of basically getting a tent or getting a room in the village hall and basically pitching up and just going, shall we do this? Shall the help shop is open. Come talk to us about writing. Where are you in your journey? What help can we give you? But we'll be as gentle as we can, but be prepared for some sort of honesty about what you're doing. So.
Well, that's it. It's getting that balance, isn't it? I think the awareness of it is the thing that, from the outset, you have to make it clear that if you come into this session and you want some critique, you may hear things you don't like, so be prepared. Do not come in here without a thick skin, is probably one of the biggest signs you could put at the door on the way in. I mean, it's one of the things that
I've just noticed Alien Items is on the shelf, so that's the book edited by Drew, one of the very early Oolite ones.
Yeah, it's where a lot of this stuff started. If we don't include the old Status Quo series. This is, I mean, it's one of the things that's very good about putting ebooks and things online, is that it doesn't matter where these things come from. I mean, it's good that a local group like yourselves has put national publications or works of internet art, if you like, onto the site for publicity, as obviously because you've contributed to it. But it is good that it's so wide ranging as that, so you get a much more broad aspect of things, and I think that's a really good first step into that, maybe that bigger picture that you could possibly expand into if you had that desire. Yeah,
exactly that. Julian, who's sort of our unofficial chair. He always, I remember being stood in Waterstones in Newbury one day with him. We just happened to meet up in town, and he was looking at a shelf, and it had like local authors, because the Newbury shop's pretty good at supporting local people. And I said, "Are you all right?" And he went, I just imagine, the Word Watchers Press, where we publish not only our own novels, but actually local authors, and this would be our section. And he hasn't actually given up on that idea yet. So
it's not that difficult a thing to actually do, to be honest. I mean, if I'm being honest, I've accidentally kind of set myself up into that place myself. If you buy ISBN numbers from the ISBN place, I can't remember what it's called now.
Yes.
You actually do set yourself up as a publisher. So accidentally, by self-publishing Elite Encounter, I've set Daftworks up as a publishing house in order to have its own ISBN numbers, which I can then lease out to other people and say, like, the only thing you have to say is you can write your own book, but you have to say published by Daftworks.
Yep.
And that's all you have to do. Which, it seems like a bit of a cheat, and it seems quite cheeky. And I was quite, obviously, worried about doing it, because obviously I'm close friends with Dan from FBP, and I was kind of worried about what he would think if one of his friends then suddenly decided to turn around and say, oh, my Daftworks is now a publishing house in rivalry to yours. And he'd be like, damn you!
Yes.
But hopefully it won't take it like that. But it's odd. It's such an easy thing to do, and then obviously then you have that ability to have someone's manuscript sent to you and then stick an ISBN number on the back and put it on a website somewhere. It's quite a powerful thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It obviously gives you a lot of responsibility as well, because then you have to think about, well, if I do something like that, you then have to start looking at how you implement the quality of a publisher. How do you treat your authors? How do you treat the people that you're going to be kind of the front face for?
Yes.
And obviously then it opens up a whole load of other things. But I think
paying their royalties and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. And obviously then as a local group yourselves, because you've been established for so long, you have that trust already there. You meet face to face every month, which puts you in an ideal position of trust to be able to do that kind of thing without much of a problem, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we were, because I'm just looking at the pictures that are flipping around there, and one of them is an anthology Word Watchers actually put out called Out of Time, and I actually designed the cover for that, weirdly enough. Although the committee got involved and ended up with this strange wood background, which I despised, but the committee said it needed a different background, so...
Designed by committee? No.
Well, it was supposed to be. So I managed to get it. Managed to get the hourglass and the way the Out of Time appeared as grains of sand got past them. So there it is there. So they were happy with that, and then they put this stupid grain effect on it. But it says down the edge, it says Word Watchers, and then it's got a 1 in a circle, because it was supposed to be our first anthology, which it was. But it was also our last anthology, because we just never got the time to sit down and do that again. Everybody, either people like Catherine moved on, Charlotte got a proper publishing deal, Debbie got her publishing deal with Digital Leaf, and we didn't have the critical mass to write a dozen or more short stories and edit them, typeset them, design the cover, and then put them out as volume 2. So we just never ever did it. So yeah, it was our first and only attempt at actually self-publishing.
So far,
that's a good way to look at it. So far.
There you go. There it is. As big as I can get it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
I was actually lucky enough for John to give me one of the copies that he had.
I did, didn't I?
And
yeah.
I think it's still in the bookcase downstairs, unfortunately. I haven't brought it upstairs yet. It may still be in the actual bag that I brought your copy of Elite Encounters down with.
well read and well thumbed, then, obviously.
No, keeping it safe until I get round to reading it is what I'm doing.
Good man.
Because I know that sometimes you can probably see from the background image on the camera there, if you can see that small, that it's a bit messy here, so I don't want to lose things. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for talking about all that. I mean, that's very interesting. It's I think things that I always am one of the people. I'm always looking at the future of things, and obviously we've looked at the past, the present, and the future of Word Watchers, and I think I do hope that it grows. I do hope it grows within the local region as well, and I do hope that it gets the chance to expand beyond the confines of Newbury and become something a bit bigger than it is, because we all want that. And I think things that have that kind of push behind them and that kind of dedication and longevity, deserve to spread. And I think without doing things like putting it online or putting it on streams or going to craft fairs or whatever you want to do, or writing fairs or so on, it's not going to do that. And obviously you're doing all the right things and keeping it out there in the public eye. And I hope it spreads, and I hope it remains successful for many years to come.
Me too, and thank you for that.
I was going to say questions at this point, but we've already got a question from Bifford on there.
Yes.
Saying that his wife is writing a book, and is there any advice you can give her, or any help that you can give her towards publishing, both in hard copy and digital?
I would, I would say if you can, find a writers group like Word Watchers. You'll be amazed that there are loads of little writers groups around. Some of them are, a bit hard to find, but I would also say, in fact, if you look on the Paragraph Planet website, which publishes some of my little 75-word short stories, he used to keep a list of writers groups in the UK. So if somebody said they were a member of a writers group, he would tag them on a map and basically go, there is a writer group in this area. So the first thing I would say is find a writers group. Second thing is try and find somebody who doesn't know you and isn't related to you and isn't a friend to actually read the work, because that's incredibly important. Your words are precious and they're your babies, and you don't spot the mistakes, or your brain ignores them on your behalf. And so find a good group, find somebody who's willing to read it. I don't know where these might be. If you look, did you go to the other column there? Did you?
I did, yeah.
Okay, maybe he's taken it down. I'll have to ask him about it. But so for example, it depends on the style of novel. But I'm a member of the Sci-Fi Roundtable on Facebook. They do sci-fi and fantasy, but they do a quid pro quo for writing. So if you've got something that needs critiquing or reviewing, then as long as you agree to read somebody else's work, they'll do the same for you. So it depends on the kind of thing. But it's interesting, I've just seen Bifford's thing. She says she doesn't want to self-publish.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think that goes back to what we were talking about. There is this, self-publishing is not the old days of vanity press, where they go, you give us £1,000 and we'll print off 500 copies of your book, and then you have to keep them in your garage and then put them in the boot of your car and try and flog them at car boot sales for £1 each to get your money back. Amazon, through CreateSpace, basically turns your book into a print-on-demand book. So you make it available as a Kindle, and there are lots of guides for doing that kind of thing, turning a Word document into the right kind of HTML, which turns it into a Kindle book. And they will turn your Kindle book into a publishable book. So if somebody goes, oh, actually I quite fancy the paperback copy of it, the order goes to CreateSpace, and CreateSpace prints a copy of the book. And the interesting thing about that is quite a lot of mainstream publishers do that for their back catalogues now, because they used to keep warehouses full of old books, but they don't have to do that anymore. They'll keep a book in stock simply by going through CreateSpace on Amazon, and on the odd time somebody orders a book, that publisher will go to CreateSpace and that book will be published and sent to the person who's ordered it. So the publishers may, ride against Amazon, but they themselves are now using the functionality of Amazon to keep their back catalogues in existence. So there isn't this thing now there shouldn't be this thing about self-publishing now. The scary thing about self-publishing is that it can be utterly terrible. Irrespective of whether the story is a good story. If it's badly laid out, if it's the margins are wrong, there's no page numbering, the headers don't work properly, so the Kindle can't get hold of the right parts of the novel, so people can cycle through the table of contents, then it will look amateurish on the Kindle and in a physical copy. But there are lots of guides out there for doing it properly. My friend John Potter on the Word Watchers website has got YouTube videos of how to do it, and and self-publishing is not giving in anymore. It's not like, oh, you couldn't get a proper publishing deal, so you decided to self-publish. I think actually, for a lot of people now, self-publishing is, I'm not prepared to jump through hoops and give an agent 15% for something I could actually do myself.
I completely agree with that, yeah.
So yeah, that's my advice, is write a good story, and then once you've written a good story, be brave and give it to either a professional to read, or at least initially somebody who doesn't know you.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, Bifford did post on there that he's meant to be proofreading this for his wife, and that's probably not a great idea, especially if you want your marriage to continue.
Yes, there is no win in that.
There isn't, no.
Because you will either go, it's lovely, dear, and then somebody else further down the line will go, it's not lovely, or you'll go, here are the millions of mistakes you made, and you'll still fall out. So I think you can read it like you were reading it, but proofreading, or that's trickier. That's a braver and harder thing to do as a partner. I'm lucky that Word Watchers, one of the things we do is critique, and you hand your novel over to 9 other people who all write novels, and they will take your novel apart, and they will spot the bit where you just fudged a character line or a scene, hoping nobody would notice, and 8 or 9 of the 9 people will notice it, and you go, yeah, fair cop. I know I didn't write that bit very well, because if they spot it, everybody else is going to spot it. So so I'm very lucky in that respect that I have Word Watchers for that. So that's the kind of thing you need, basically. Get it in front of people who you don't necessarily know, but you can gain an element of trust in the work that they're going to put into your novel.
Yeah. I think, so I'm coming back to myself again, because obviously it's my stream, I'll talk about me for one and you can all bugger off. I'm very lucky in that I have 2 creative writing gods in my companionship circle who have, although they are close friends, have managed to do a very, very honest job of editing the book. And obviously that's yourself and Drew. Bifford, although I don't know Bifford all that well face to face, we've only really met face to face the once. Again, very, very blessed to have someone who's got his level of detail and his eye for a mistake to go through the book that I've written and correct so many things I got wrong. And that's great. I mean, but that's, I think I'm very, very lucky to be the exception to the general rule, is that your group of friends will very, very rarely be proficient or professional enough to either have the guts to face up to you to make that you have made mistakes, or that it is a bag of shit, or that you do need substantial rewriting, which is the polite way. Polite way is in it's a bag of shit. But yeah, so definitely first, I would say Bifford, the person through the first pass should not be yourself, because you will be the one who's then unfortunate enough to find the most mistakes out of everyone who then proofreads it. If she then rewrites to fit your standards and then hands it off to someone else, the only thing that's going to come back from that is, well, he found less mistakes than you did. So yeah, because you fixed all the ones I pointed out. Yep. So as you say, you're not going to win, and even with the best will in the world and the best relationship in the world, you will have issues. And I know that because I tried to proofread some stuff my son wrote, and he hasn't spoken to me for 3 years now. He gave me something when he was about 14, or 13 or
Yeah.
14. And
He still
although
holds a grudge.
he still holds a grudge, he won't show me anything he's writing now. He doesn't even tell me what he's doing anymore. Because whenever he brought me something, I said, okay, that's good, I like the way that's going, but that's crap. But, you know, more productive than that, saying what was bad about it, what was good about it, what he should keep, what he should go. But obviously, because he's very proud of what he's done, you get that whole proofreading, editing, the thing that you love thing that's going on.
The ego is a terrible monster.
The ego is terrible, yes. It will stab you in the back every time. But yeah, so it's definitely a tricky situation. Definitely seek professionals, or at least people who don't know you. A little funny anecdote I've got just on the end of that is that I have proofread a book for a friend of mine. He's not a particularly close friend anymore. He used to be, and I don't mean because of the editing.
Because of the novel.
we're obviously quite close friends for a while. Then he got married and moved away, so we kind of drifted apart a little bit. But we keep in touch now and again. So I fix stuff for his computer. He does stuff for me, and you know, we keep in touch. And he visits if he's up in Derby. So we're still friends, but the kind of, oh, there you are type friend. And he gave me his book to read, and he's a very good writer. He's probably one of the best action scene space battle writers I've ever read in my life, and that includes published authors.
Yeah.
But he needed to do a lot of work on his social writing, his descriptive writing, his relationships, his dialogue, and so on when I first read him. So after a couple of years of improving his style and practicing and getting better with it, he submitted to me his first attempt at a novel. And it was good, don't get me wrong, but there were issues. But by the time I'd finished pointing out those issues, I felt like I ripped his heart out and stomped all over it, because I'd taken basically the core of his book had a flaw, and one of the key story points had been kind of glossed over.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm going to tell you exactly what it was. I don't think he would mind. I hope he doesn't mind. He's probably not going to see this video anyway. But essentially, one of the main characters went through a physical abuse scenario.
Yep. Yeah.
And when it got to the point where she was reintroduced to the story after the point of that happening, that aspect of her personality would have changed completely from the start of the book, but he completely glossed over it and didn't address it at all, to the point where he had one of the crew on the ship was flirting with her, and that to me struck a chord as being quite wrong. Like there was something fundamentally missing from that part of the story that was, I think, maligning that character slightly, and making much less of what she could be.
Yeah.
So I pointed that out to him as a fundamental thing that he had to go back and essentially I said to him, you're going to have to completely rewrite that character, because what you have here isn't a situation where you have this is character X at this point, this is character X at Y at this point. What you have is character X and character Y. You have a completely different person after that sort of thing. So you have to address that to try and get back to at least having a semblance of character X before you can move any kind of romantic or relationship scenario along. And you're not looking at doing that in book 1 or even book 2 or probably even book 3.
Yeah.
Depending on how long you've got in between each story. So that was a fundamental thing that I think he missed out, and there was a couple of other things. But what drove me quite... And I've actually become quite upset about the situation, because I've started reading Honor Harrington. If anyone's heard of that character. David Webber is the author, and it's a series of novels about a space captain doing stuff in space, basically. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it's written in a very militaristic fashion. So it's military first, character second, and then plot. And it that makes it sound less enjoyable than it is. It's a very good book, but unfortunately, structurally and the way that they read, very, very similar to Dave's work. Very, very similar. And I haven't got the heart to tell him. I think he is that quality of author. He can write as well as David Webber can write. If he brings his entire novel up to the same level as David Webber's writing, I have this unfortunate, sad feeling he's going to basically be recreating Honor Harrington without even having heard of that writer. And that's the danger that you have as an editor who knows somebody. Yeah. You have that possibility that you will know something they don't, or that you will discover something that they may not have thought of, or that you find something deeply either wrong or similar to another work in their work. And that's a very difficult thing to put across to somebody who you call a friend, when you say to them that, well, you could publish it, but everyone's going to call you David Webber Mark II.
Yes.
As an independent editor, easy to do. You don't know the person. You've done this, it won't work, have to change all this. But as a friend, the last thing you want to do is stomp over someone's passion. So very, very hard thing to do.
This bloke called Webber beat you to this novel plot.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I must admit, in the early days of my son Derry's writing career, I used to take great pride in telling him exactly where he got his ideas from. Is that harsh? So yeah, I'm not a great editor or proofreader. I'm at least, well, I don't know. If I was doing it professionally, I'd probably be very good, because I'd be telling people exactly why they can't publish a book. But in terms of trying to be a dad while being an editor, no, don't do it. Yeah. And I would suggest Bifford, same thing. You can't be a husband and an editor.
Yeah, oil and water.
Yeah, it's either going to end up in divorce court or a dark alley somewhere. So so we've kind of run quite a lot over on this, and we haven't even covered the Martian thing yet.
Well, do you want to? It's up to you. It's your stream. I don't mind.
I don't mind. I've actually managed to change the category now. Rather than the Subnautica category, I've changed it to creative now, because that's basically what it is.
Fair enough.
Which actually dragged in five more viewers.
Probably expecting you to stream something though.
Well, we'll have a few minutes on the Martian thing.
Right.
The Wood Watchers thing and a little bit of publishing advice. Awesome to have, and thank you for that very much. Yeah. And obviously we'll concentrate on the Martian magazine for a bit now, and go from there. So I'll just close these windows. I don't need any more. So if anybody's been watching my Twitter feed today, you'll have seen me push a couple of articles out, pushing this new magazine for Drabbles idea that's come out. I'm going to hand over to John, because again it was him that made me aware of it, so I'm going to push it to John to explain.
Okay. Well, it's one of those things where I stumbled across it on Twitter. So this guy, Eric Fomley, has started a Twitter thing called Magazine Martian. It turns out there's already something called the Martian Magazine, so he couldn't call the Twitter handle that. And as Dave was looking for the magazine, he realised that there's a webcomic called the Martian Magazine. So, but this Martian Magazine is going to specialise in drabbles, so 100-word stories to start with. The plan is they actually pay, which is is pretty rare these days. So they pay. It's interesting actually. He's only interested in drabbles to start with, so word stories which have exactly 100 words in them. But because he only wants drabbles, he can pay competitive authorial rates. So he pays 10 cents a word. So for a 100-word drabble, he will pay you $10. And he wants to publish an anthology. So basically he publishes a drabble a week for a year, and then he puts them in an anthology, plus he brings some other work in from elsewhere, and he puts that anthology out as a digital magazine, and if people want it, a physical special edition that you can order through either Amazon or the website. And basically he's trying Patreon, and he's trying the Indiegogo route, because what he wants to do is he wants to publish as many people as he can, and pay them competitive rates, because he said it's not fair that people work for experience, or what's the other word? Not experience, exposure, because obviously exposure doesn't pay your mortgage and doesn't feed your kids. So while he's only interested at the moment in 100-word stories, that's because he can only pay effectively $10 a story. But he's not asking you to work too hard for your $10. So he wants to publish. What he's aiming to do is publish 2 stories a week rather than 1, and he'd like to put out 2 anthologies a year rather than 1. So he's just trying to raise some funds so that he can do that. So he's not trying to make a profit. It's just a brand new shiny magazine who wants as many flash fiction writers as possible to get published and actually get paid for their work. So the reason I got into it is he opened up his magazine for submissions from the 1st of June to the 7th, so 6 days basically, and he received 900 submissions during that week, and he would accept up to 3 submissions from any one author. So I submitted 3 100-word stories, and
Only 3?
Well, he would only take 3, yeah. So he looked at 3 of mine, and he picked my favourite of the 3 I'd submitted, and he sent me a contract over a few days later, which I've now signed, and so about a week before the story gets published, I'll get my $10 via PayPal. And in a year's time, when he puts the anthology together, if it basically, any time it makes a profit, all the authors who are featured get a pro rata percentage of the money left over. So he takes 50% as the publisher, and of the remaining 50%, each of the authors get a pro rata rate for that. So if you've got one drabble in a 50-page anthology, then you'll get 1/50th of the 50%. So you'll get 1%. So that's all right. And that's obviously ad infinitum, because as long as that anthology is being sold, that as long as you make at least $1, he'll pay you $1. So I think he seems like a really nice chap. He seems very sensible. He's not promising the earth, but he seems to have a plan. And like you said, the Indiegogos, so I can do more. I'm going to keep pushing whether the Indiegogo or the Patreon thing works out. This is so I can enhance what I'm already offering. So, in this day and age, digital magazines actually offering to pay people is a real rarity. I've been approached numerous times. I have given work up for free, usually for charities. So Naomi's House was a charity I supported in an anthology not that long ago. So I don't mind for those kind of things giving away my work, but the number of times I've been approached on Twitter or via the Facebook page to go, would you like some exposure? We're starting a new magazine. And it's like, to be honest, no. If you want to pay me even $1, then I'll gladly write you a story, but I'm tired of working for exposure. I've had lots of exposure. It doesn't, oddly enough, go anywhere. So I'll quite gladly take money rather than exposure these days. And he paid me $10. So I think I'm quite happy to say there is a chap out there. Like I said, the window's closed now, but he's hoping to open 2 windows a year rather than 1. But he needs, because he's a new magazine and he wants to pay people properly, he just needs a bit of extra funds to hopefully do that twice a year rather than once a year. And his aspiration is by this time next year to run a competition that has, or take entries for flash fiction up to 300 words, which if he pays the same rate will be $30 per story. And then suddenly you're thinking, oh, that's all right, $30 a pop is, starts to feel like proper money at that point. So I just thought, as you gave me an opportunity to mention it, and you very kindly shared the links on Facebook and Twitter for me, and you're doing it here on your Twitch feed, I just thought the guy deserved a bit of additional pushing, because he seems to be one of the few small guys in the market at the moment who's treating authors with respect by not expecting them to work for free.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was quite keen on pushing it, because it is good to see someone actually trying to push authors for the work they actually do and actually give them the reward for the work they actually put into these things.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, 10 cents a word isn't bad at all for
No.
something like this. So that
No, it's not at all.
good luck to it, and I hope it comes off.
Yeah, me too. At least after I'm published, so.
But yeah, so anybody out there who've got social media or other things or stream, if you don't mind pushing those links out that I've shoved in chat onto your media things as well, and see if you can get this guy across his line. He's it's not been going for very long, but it's only got 10 days left as far as I can see. Is that right?
I think it was a 25-day thing, which is one of the Indiegogo sort of things it does. So,
I mean, the good thing about it is it's a flexible goal, so it means it'll get the funds that are put in. He'll receive anyway, even if it doesn't meet the target. So that's something. But it'd be good to see him get across the line, because I think it's something that we need more of now. I mean, the heyday for obviously sci-fi magazines and short story magazines was way back in the 50s and 60s and so on, and it kind of all fell off.
Stories, yeah,
and it's starting to come back now, and I think things like Drabbles are becoming really, really popular now, and I think pushing that at the moment is a good inroad to get people into this kind of flash fiction writing and kind of short fiction structures and so on, and it's also a good learning tool. And I think as time goes by, the Drabble idea is going to get caught up, I think, a bit more, and if it's not already, it would surprise me if it's not getting brought into schools at some point.
Yeah, well, a Drabble, I mean, the thing I found quite interesting, having formatted my own to look up my phone, a Drabble fits, depending on the font, almost exactly on a page of a mobile phone. So it's almost like the optimal format for reading on a mobile phone. And you can imagine that. You just like read 100 words, left swipe, read another 100 words, left swipe, and it just seems to me the Drabble is almost the perfect delivery mechanism for that kind of short story, and the attention span and the time commitments of your average mobile phone user. So long may it rain.
Cool. It's also even less than the original Twitter post size, so a short story in a Twitter post.
Yeah. Well, I won a short story competition via a tweet.
That doesn't surprise me.
There was a publisher who said, write horror story in a tweet. So it was 140 characters, but you had to have a hashtag which reduced it to 120, and you had to at the people who were running the competition. I think it might have been HarperCollins, and so I had 98 characters, and I managed to write a short horror story in 98 characters. And I won a copy of The Lady in Black, or The Woman in Black.
Nice.
So yeah, it turned up in the post. They DM'd me and they said that's amazing. Send us your postal address and your real name, and we'll put a copy of the book in the post. And it turned up a week later. So
the wonders of modern society.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Martian magazine, or magazine Martian. There's the Twitter feed for it. Obviously, he's been going for a fair while. He's got quite a lot on there at the moment. So the Indiegogo news is all on there as well. So follow that. If you don't mind pushing that Indiegogo out, guys, as much as you can. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'll obviously put a link to these in the description as well. And obviously, Word Watchers, John's group, worth following as well. I'll put all the links to their media in the chat as well. So I think we'll draw that to a close, and we'll see if we can get at least some gaming in this evening. So thank you very much, John. It's been a pleasure having you on. It's been far too long since we did this kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the last time was an accidental butt dial with Drew, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. When I was sitting in Maplin's car park.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been great. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a bit different. If you did enjoy this, then also let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, then also let me know. We've had, I think, 11 was the highest count of viewers we got just after I switched over to creative, so that's at least something. But again, I'm hoping to do this more often, this kind of weird and wonderful random stuff. As I say, I'm going to draw that to a close with you, John, so thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no worries.
Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah,
is there anything you want to add just at the end there?
No, I'm good. I'll see you in the chat while you're streaming.
Cool. Well, I'm going to nip onto Subnautica now, so I'll call off the Skype call. Thank you very much, John. Take care of yourself.
And you. Cheers.
Cheerio. Okay. Thank God he's gone. Flipping it, that man can talk. Yeah, so... I'm only kidding, John. Right, I'll put all those links in the chat at some point. So just let me grab the Wood Watchers link just now, and I'll pop that in there for you. So there's Wood Watchers. Facebook. No, I'll give you the Twitter page. Obviously, the Facebook page isn't very active now, so I'll leave that out for now. But I'll stick the Twitter on there for you. If you've got any questions you want to ask John as we move forward into the gaming part of the evening, then by all means do so. He's going to be in chat for a bit, no doubt. And again, like I said, drop me a comment or drop me a Facebook post or something if you enjoyed that, or if you want to do something a bit different next time. Oops, I've left the intro thing on. So we'll move on to doing an actual bit of a game now. And I'm hoping this is going to work, and I'm hoping it's going to work in the thing that you call shit, VR, because it's a very good VR game. We're going to play Subnautica, which is you'll see what it is. It's a survival game along the lines of things like Stranded Deep and so on. You've got to fend for yourself in a disaster situation and try and come out the other side not being dead. The problem I have with it is that once I actually start the game up, I will have no control over my desktop because it locks the mouse completely. The game. Interesting. So yeah, I'm just hoping that it's going to kick off without having to muck about too much. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have wasted my time putting this fucking headset on all night and making me head sweat like you would not believe. So I'm just going to update my streaming information back to Subnautica. I'm going to flip across to this gaming stream layout. I'm going to hide the game capture window, sorry, the window capture window, that one. Game capture window should be on Subnautica already, so let's get it booted up and see what happens. Fingers crossed, everyone. Okay, that seems to work, so let me just put the headset on and we'll get back on with things. A lovely single malt for lubrication purposes throughout Fetter Cairn. I'll keep an eye on that one. Pagan Pride, hello! Subnautica is one of the 3 games meant to play in VR. Never will unless going to make it all a VR set. It does help, I've found. So I'm going to start a new game, and I'm going to go on the full survival mode. Now you'll see a black screen for a bit, as far as I'm aware. You may find it's a colour kind of thingy screen. God, that's loud. And I can do precisely nothing about it. Until I get into the actual game and can access the settings. So what it's doing at the minute is actually loading in the game. No, it's not frozen. It's like this. This is what it does. Because the main screen's in VR, it puts a loading screen on, but it's not in full resolution. So basically there is a loading indicator off the bottom left hand side of the screen that you can't see. And it doesn't move around with the headset. So essentially you'll just have to sit and watch this until it loads in the game. As long as the music's playing, you're golden. Just as well I sat and played this last night to work out what it's all about, innit? Now, where's my handset? Unfortunately this doesn't use the touch controllers, but I can use the touch controllers to reset my view if I need to. So yeah, this is a completely different beast. Right, so you can probably see I'm getting a press any button to continue sign.
Launch in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so step one, basically what I need to do is try and put this fire out. So I need to fix these secondary systems by using a repair tool. So what I need to do is make a repair tool using this thing before I can do anything else. If I show you what this is, what I need to do is in personal equipment I have a repair tool somewhere. No, it's in tools. So I need to get that. So I need to find somewhere making silicon, rubber, cave, sulfur and titanium. Which is fun. So before we do all that, I need to find out where we are. This is where we are. Oh.
Suffered orbital hull failure. Cause unknown. 0 human life signs detected.
My collection of singing potatoes is gone. The interesting thing about this game is that it actually generates the landscape randomly every time. So this is a completely different landscape to what I was playing yesterday, with different distribution of stuff. So this is some wreckage.
Oxygen.
Oh crap. That was close.
Copper is an essential component of all powered equipment. Your probability of survival has just increased to unlikely, but plausible.
So, now that I've picked up some stuff, I can make stuff. Now I've picked up metal salvage, so I can make some titanium. And I can make a battery because I've got copper and acid.
New blueprint acquired.
An O2 tank is quite important because it means I can breathe more. So if you watch my O2 count, it's just gone from 45 to 75.
Acquired.
A fire extinguisher, a pipe and a floating air pump. All useful things. So I need a repair tool. So I have titanium. I need silicon rubber. To make that I need grapevine seed clusters, which are fairly easy to find. Now I'll just look up my bottom hatch this time. And what I'm looking for is tall creepers like these. Now I can steer myself. There's ones that are quite near the surface, I'll go for them. I'll get some air before I go down.
New blueprint acquired. Life on this planet grows in unusually distinct and diverse ecological biomes. Further study recommended.
I love the fact that I just have to nod my head to dive.
Lubricant is essential in construction of vehicles and power plants.
Okay, so I need 2 batteries. Can I make another battery?
The fabricator draws from available data to provide environment-appropriate equipment using locally available materials. For your safety, this setting cannot be overridden.
Need more copper. So the stuff I've collected I can store in here for a bit. Ow.
Sulfur deposits in the local cave systems. Sulfur is an essential component of the repair tool.
That did hurt me a bit. That took a bit of time to spawn in. So I need titanium and rubber. Repair tool. So I press 1 and that should activate it.
LifePod secondary systems online. Running full environment diagnostic and outputting results to databank.
That's everything fixed.
Radio online. Broadcasting emergency distress signal.
Okay. So that's the immediate threat dealt with. The voice seems to be the default Astra voice. You know, the voice from Astra in the voice packs, which is essentially one of the Microsoft voice recognition voices. Oh, it's dark. Oh, pretty. This is actually why I bought the game, because I wanted a game where I could just go somewhere and sit in water and actually just look out at the sea. And if I can just switch this HUD off, which I think you can, this would be lovely, just lovely to sit in. But to show you that this game underwater is beautiful. It is a stunningly gorgeous game. I mean, look at that. Everything has its own glow and its own illumination to it. And it's just pretty as hell. So you've got your big moon there, little moon there, and the ship, which is not in a good shape. I mean, it doesn't last much longer, to be honest with you. Options, music volume. Turn that down a bit because it's bloody loud. So it's a gorgeous looking game. I'm sorry, I'm really going to have to go to the loo. Posting for a was. To put it in the vernacular, just please bear with me. Can't mute or do anything on it at the moment, so I'm just going to camera it for the moment. Apologies about that. It's one of the situations where a man's going to do what a man's going to do because he's bloody diabetic. Oh, the sun came up. How nice is that? So where was I? Does it look lovely in VR? Yes, it does look gorgeous in VR.
Is consistent with damage to the Aurora's drive core sustained during planet fall.
So as you get in deep water. I got on the brink of that while I was trying it out last night. It told me where there was a place I could go. I just need to work out where my keys are. There we go. So let's go and see if I can find some deep down stuff. That's not a good sound. So, no! What the hell is that? No, run away! No, don't touch me! Don't eat me! I'm not tasty! I taste mostly of garlic. Fish don't like garlic. Oh, bloody hell. The bloody things have a tendency to follow you back. These sharky things. You can't actually go anywhere. Okay, let's see what I can fabricate. So, I can do glass. I've got 1 quartz, I think. I've got a salted coral tube, so I can do bleach, which is useful for something. Silicon rubber I've got. Titanium ingot I can get if I do more titanium. I can pick up more bits from the ship. Lubricant I've got. And the battery and some copper ore. Now, where the hell did I get copper ore? It just hangs around. Oh crap. need to make a knife. Rubber and titanium, which I do have. So if I grab some rubber, some titanium,
Weapons were removed from standard survival blueprints following the massacre on Abraxas Prime. The knife remains the only exception.
I don't know if you can raid the ship for parts. You can, apparently, once it's blown up. It's high in it's high in radiation at the moment. Once it blows up, I don't know. You can explore it, because I was looking for a couple of hints in terms of how to get more. What was that I was looking for? How to get more copper, actually, I think it was. Or how to actually not get eaten by fish was the main thing I was looking for earlier. And I did note that you can explore on the ship after a while, and you can find, oh, it was medkits. That's what I was looking for, was medkits. Because they don't spawn particularly quickly. And yeah, apparently you can find medkits on the ship, so you can go on the ship at some point. No, I didn't, not unless I unlocked Cyclops. What did I say? That's possible, building a sensor. I don't know if it's a sensor that can tell me where things is, or where things are that I've actually found, or I have to actually find them first. So let's have a look at tools. Sensor, battery and titanium. Let's go into my cupboard and get a battery, and I've got the titanium, they're not salt, put that in the thing. Quartz, salt, titanium. Let's make a scanner then.
The scanner can be used to synthesize blueprints from salvage technology and to record alien biological data. Self-scan complete. Vital signs normal. Continuing to monitor.
Oh, I've got everything I need to make bleach now. So, go and get me salt.
Bleach is an essential chemical used for cleaning wounds and purifying water. Preparing the day's water ration ahead of time will help ensure against dehydration and eventual death.
Alright, deep water, I see. Okay. The only thing I would say is that the PDA is too close to your face. It's actually slightly uncomfortable for me to read.
This is Aurora. Distress signal received. Rescue operation will be dispatched to your location in 9 hours. Continue to monitor for emergency transmissions from other life pods.
So, next, now I have a knife, I can go a little bit more securely. I thought that was in the game. Fucking hell. smut by something, but I actually healed. I can build glass. I can build more titanium. So what I want to do with that, between me and the ship, I want to drop.
Seek fluid intake. Vital signs stabilizing.
So, what to do next? Obviously I need to fabricate stuff, so what I need to do... Don't need any of that stuff just now. What I need... Something that's going to get me down further into the world. Now, I can make first aid kits. Fibre mesh I have to make with something. Fins I already have. Silver... Have I actually got enough to make all of those things? Silver ore and glass. Silver ore I don't have. Titanium I've got, I can make more of easily enough. I'm going to put that in there, and put that in there. I'm now out of food, which is annoying. So I need more metal. I need silver ore. So where the hell am I going to find silver ore? Okay, there's my metal. Scan it. Scan what? I was going to say it sounds like they put a new creature in. Love those brain corals. Camping it for 3 hours. Lamb's a lot of stream hype. Okay. What do the brain corals do? Spoilers, not unless no, sorry, it's alright. Carry on, say it. I'm always willing to learn through listening to what everyone says in streams. God forbid that I'll learn something myself. Like I said, where can I get silver from? The hell? Is that? Ow!
Caution. Continued degradation of the Aurora's drive core may result in a quantum detonation. Continuing to monitor.
Bit of a glitch there. Ah, the bubble that broke out is oxygen. Ah, that's handy. No, I don't know. Well, it's handy. awesome. Could do some salt. Nope, I'm going back the way I came. Ow! Did I just die? You're kidding. Oh my god! Did I lose everything I just collected? Yes. Son of a bitch. Ugh. 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 Ooh, spinny feet. Oh, well, in any case, flippin' heck. Altaman. 3 hours to go. What the hell? Anyway, yes, that was fun. I enjoyed that. That's a fun game. It's very atmospheric. I like the kind of the sea aspect of it, which is kind of the reason I bought it. But I do like the kind of ambience of it. I mean, even that loading screen. Look at the rendering of that water. It's gorgeous. Who needs Sea of Thieves? This is beautiful. And in VR it is lovely, I will say. It is a lovely game to look at. So, yeah, I'm going to stick out of that now. Oh. I hope you enjoyed me. I hope you enjoyed being along for my swim. So yeah, I'll get the hang of playing this game at some point, and then I'll do some other shit. So that was another Not Dangerous Monday, which brings me more or less to the end of the stream, where I'm going to say there are still a few regulars kicking about. And I did forget to kind of go into this because of Daddy Hoggy's bit going on for so long. But I'm contemplating some changes to the stream, some changes to the channel and changes to the schedule. The reason being, Mondays are quite a challenge to stream on nowadays. Yes, it is. It's a lovely game out of VR, which has actually got me wanting to play it, because it looked cool when some people were doing some playthroughs of it. But in VR, it is gorgeous. It really is. It's so immersive, and you actually do feel like you're underwater because of the sounds and the motion and everything else. It is really nice. So I can recommend it. If you don't have a VR headset, get one. But anyway, I want to kind of move away from just playing Elite Dangerous, because it has become I've become very aware that I've nearly 90 games in Steam. I've got over 100 games altogether actually ready to install on this PC. I have 5 Oculus games, 87 or 88 Steam games, 3 Uplay games, and what's the other one? Origin. 5 or 6 or 7 Origin games. And I kind of want to try and play more than just the one game. Elite Dangerous is still an immersive, awesome, fun game, especially in VR. And I do enjoy playing it, but I want to try and diversify my portfolio slightly. I want to try and get out and about and do something a bit more. So I kind of want to branch out. And what I'm thinking about doing is doing that through altering the way that I stream slightly. So rather than doing a Monday night stream where I'm only playing Elite Dangerous, so Dangerous Mondays intentionally points towards Elite Dangerous as being the game. My original idea was to do Dangerous Mondays and then branch out and do a second stream that covers other games. At the moment, I don't think I'm going to be able to do another stream on top of doing this stream and potentially the RPG streams that I'm doing. So I'm going to shelve that idea for the moment. But what I'm going to do is diversify what I do on the Monday night stream, or the Dangerous Mondays. The plan is to move it to a different night, as I say, because Mondays are not the best day for streaming for me, because it's just falling off the weekend. First day back at work. By the time it gets to 8 o'clock at night, I'm shattered and I don't want to play. I do manage to do it, but at this point I'm really tired. I had a late night last night. I've got a lot of things I need to do, and generally Monday's quite a busy day. It also clashes with things like bank holidays and so on, so I'm going to move the streams night. Now the intent is, the original plan was to move it to a Wednesday, which is probably what I'm going to do. That doesn't clash with any of the streamers that I tend to hang around with at the moment, other than the ones who stream every single day. It also means that I can have a bit more of a midweek session rather than cramming everything towards the weekend side. So it spreads things out a little bit more for me, as well as doing the RPG on the Sunday, so it means I get the 2 days between, which is much easier for me. And I think it might actually work better for people who are watching the streams as well, because it means they're also not coming off the back of the first day back at work, or they're not having to break up a bank holiday or anything like that. So that seems like an idea to me. I want to try and move into an area where I can maybe get some more viewers. So the Wednesday night, the midweek move might be more. Oh, lovely! I'm glad at least one person likes it. And the other thing is obviously trying to move to different games. The plan would be that I might do like a cycle, like a 4-week cycle or a monthly cycle of games. In a 4-week month, the first Monday of the month, let's say, in a 4-week month, the first Monday would be Elite Dangerous. The second, third, and fourth would have to come up with some kind of idea. Now, John, Drew, and I had an idea of doing some kind of vodcast, like a group chat, kind of podcast chat thing. Not necessarily playing a game at the same time, maybe doing something in the background, but talking about the creative stuff that we do, brainstorming some ideas, maybe taking a look at some of the creative stuff that's going off through the month. Kind of free form chat with a bit of stuff in the background. If it felt like it, we could do a bit of gaming in the meantime, maybe some multiplayer stuff if we all have the same game. See how that goes. John and Drew and I are kind of talking about it. Well, it'd be once a month anyway, Daddy Huggy. So what we'd do is we'd try and pick the one week in the month where it wouldn't clash with your Wood Watcher stuff, and try and keep that regular. And then there'd obviously be, occasionally we'd have potentially a fifth Wednesday in a month. And that could possibly be something a bit different. That could be try anything or do something a bit different. Anything can happen Wednesday, shall we call it. And that's the plan. That's kind of what I'm intending to do. Try and keep a semi-regular schedule of things we actually do, but keep it to a Wednesday. It also means that it doesn't clash with things like holidays, like conventions and so on, where we have the Monday maybe for recovery. So I think for me it works. I think for community side stuff it would work, and I'm quite excited with the diversity that it's going to bring to the channel, and I think hopefully it'll bring some more viewers to get involved with some different communities, because I am starting to feel the pinch on being locked into the Elite Dangerous community on a Monday night. I want to get into some different games. I mean, I've got a lot of different games. I mean, I've got such a diverse portfolio of stuff. I mean, you saw last week we did Man of War, we did Battletech. This week we've done Subnautica. I mean, I've got things in here like the Sorcery games from the Fighting Fantasy series. I've got Space Hulk Deathwing, Star Trek Bridge Crew, This War of Mine, Viscera Cleanup Detail you saw, House Flipper last week. Obviously Planet Coaster, which everyone loves. We've also got Jurassic Park coming up. Jurassic World, sorry. Soon, and we've got the update, the 28th of July, 28th of June, sorry, we've got the update to Elite Dangerous coming out as well. So I mean, Elite Dangerous still being in there works for me as well. So I'm going to play with that. It won't be an immediate change. Obviously I need to try and do some more branding, because I need to, obviously if I'm going to move it to a Wednesday, I'm going to have to rename it from Dangerous Monday to something else. And again, try and rebrand to a way that doesn't lock me into playing Elite Dangerous. So we've got that freedom to do something. We could call it Dangerous First Wednesday of the month, but that doesn't really flow off the tongue overly well. So I'm going to think of some stuff and do some rebranding and do some graphics up for it if I get the time, and see where it goes from there. So if anybody has some thoughts, anybody has some comments, then by all means either chuck them in the chat for Twitch, come up with some things and talk about it next week, because we'll be on Monday next week, don't worry. And Wicked Wednesday. I was thinking Midweek Madness at one point, but Wicked Wednesday works as well. But there's part of me wants to try and drop the name from it. I don't know. Wicked Wednesday, Wanker Wednesday. I don't know. Something Wednesday, or midweek something, or something midweek, or something that goes with Selezen streams, or I don't know. But yeah, something like that. But that's it. As I say, it's probably more or less certain that I'm going to move the stream. Wednesdays will be happening. The 4 weekly split of games is probably going to be happening as well. I'm quite keen on that idea, definitely, to try and get some of these other games played for a bit. I don't know whether I'm going to go in series or whether I'm going to like play a game for that second Wednesday or third Wednesday. But I don't know. I'll see how it goes. I mean, if the viewer number increases and we get more people in and more people want to see me play a certain game, then I'll obviously focus on that for a while and go from there. I'm obviously going to try and bring in some multiplayer stuff. So midweek multiplayer might be a title for one Wednesday in that week. So we've got so many multiplayer games and co-op games. I've got Pulsar, Lost Colony, Star Trek Bridge Crew, which would be a laugh. I mean, that is one thing that I think Drew, John and I would actually get into playing. You can play it without having to do VR now as well, which would be a lot of fun, I think. Stellaris, I mean, what else have I got on here? Jeez. Online games, can you do Lego Star Wars and stuff multiplayer as well? So yeah, I mean, we've got different things we can play. We've even got big screen beta. Now that could be something quite fun to do. Big screen beta is an online cinema thing where you can actually all sit in the same theatre and watch something if you have VR. I'm not sure if you can play it without VR, which would be a shame. But yeah, just different things we can do, different things that we could play with, and different things we can do to keep the stream going and make it a little bit more diverse. So that's the plan anyway. I'll write all this up at some point as well and stick it in a post on Facebook or a post on Twitter. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about doing. So I hope you like the idea, and I hope you'll keep with me. I hope those of you who watch primarily just for Elite won't go away, and that you'll watch me play other stuff. I hope you're watching it for me, not just the games that I'm playing. And we'll see how things go. Anyway, I'm going to give it a rest there. Thanks very much to Daddy Hoggy for joining us this evening. It was awesome to have him on and talking about the things that make him smile. I would also say, obviously, because we all know each other, love to his family as well. They're an awesome bunch. Not one of which is fully healthy, to be honest. But you know, good luck to John for that lot. So yeah, love to all those guys. Thank you very much, John. Next week I'm hoping to get Drew Wagar on. We were talking about it earlier and we penciled in a session. The last time I tried to do this, I was plagued with so many technical issues. Essentially my internet completely went down, and we didn't manage to do the interview, which was prior to Premonition coming out. But I'm hoping to get him on next week to talk about the upcoming Lord of Midnight's release and the processes that went behind that, and what he's got in store for us over the coming months in terms of books. And that's it. Waffle done, I think. I'm going to say I would hope that we were going to be doing RPG stuff this weekend, but after looking at my schedule for the weekend and all the different stuff that's going on with us at home, it's Father's Day as well, which is another thing that means it's not going to happen. But I'm going to have to, I think, pass on the RPG for this week again this week, which I'm not happy about. But we'll see, because there are things planned, but I think everything that's meant to be going off is happening after 6:30, or we're supposed to be somewhere at 6:30. So if I finish streaming on the RPG at 6 and then we head out, that's not a problem. So as long as I kind of finish the RPG then go, that should be fine, but I'll make sure on that. So pencil in Sunday on this channel for the Elite Encounters RPG session with Chaos Dispenser, DJ Truthsayer, other buttons, and various other people from the Sovereignty who have been very supportive and so on. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Daddy Hoggy, Evie's wheelchair alive today. I'm going to get her and Anne to watch that scene in Days of Thunder. You've got to get the Go Faster stripes. You've got to get the stencils. You've got to get all the decent graphics on there. You've got to get the racing stripe. Is it the? Oh God, what's it called? Not the Le Mans stripe. The other one. Oh God. The Trans Am stripes on there. Otherwise, it's not a proper wheelchair. Okay, right. So RPG Sunday, hopefully. Next Monday, hopefully, we're going to have Drew Wagar on saying hello. This week we've had John Hoggard. Thank you very much. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. I don't know about the rest of you, but I enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed the slightly different last couple of weeks of this stream. And these YouTube videos, obviously slightly different. So take care. I'm waffling now, so I'm going to basically just go, because it's just silly sitting here and saying the same things. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Have a good week, sorry. All the best. And it's been awesome. Take care.